B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach. Shir Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back here on our extraordinary series of the Jewish intimacy, the issues of Kedusha, trying to purify the Jewish homes, trying to purify the world, Baruch Hashem, one lecture at a time through the Igeret HaKodesh by the holy Ramban, Nachmanides. Tonight's shiur will be for the Refuah Shlema for Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Avi Mori David ben Nesriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, also for the Atzlacha Rabba for Marsha bat Julie, and Bezrat Hashem, all of the righteous Noahides, all of the wonderful people that continue to contribute as part of our team, all the people that donate their money, their resources to help us do all the amazing things the organization is doing. So, Baruch Hashem, tonight we have quite a bit on our plates. We're actually going to go into the mystical world of Kabbalah. This is unlike many of our shiurim throughout the years. Anyone that's been watching us throughout the years, you know we don't really delve into the Kabbalah very often in shiurim. And certainly this is one of the things that we were very, very careful of, since number one, Kabbalah is not for everyone. And certainly it's one of those things where you only teach to the public if there's an absolute need, as well as if there is you have the right crowd. Now the things that we're going to delve into are the very basics, but Bezrat Hashem, it's certainly going to be some life changes if anybody actually pays attention to the details, especially towards the end of this shiur, when we discuss what happens when a person has achieved the good versus what happens when a person ignores it and chas v'shalom goes in the other side. This is certainly not about the gruesome Gehenom or Kafakela or all the other things which we have other shurim for that, but rather things that are happening in this world. Also, as a side note for anyone that doesn't know, or just simply as a reminder for everybody, tomorrow night is the very big day. Tomorrow night we have the premiere of the long-awaited, biggest movie in the history of Torah, that not only that we've done, but I believe in general, simply because the topic has never been discussed in such a platform. The movie we have about Gehenom. It's going to be premiered on our app as well as on the website gehenom.org, as well as on our YouTube channel. I highly recommend people put a reminder for themselves to watch it. Some of you may want to watch it with groups, but either way, this is going to be certainly a movie that's going to change a lot of lives. And Baruch Hashem, we're looking forward to it. So tomorrow night, we're not going to have a lecture. You're not going to need it after that movie. Also, for anyone that wants to help us market this movie, I know that many of you, Baruch Hashem, have helped us already and have contributed so far, some more, some less, but nonetheless, everybody has done what they could over this last month since we've had this campaign for the movie. I think that it's safe to say that many of you are going to be much more inclined to jump on board and contribute after you watch the movie, because it's simply going to change your life after you watch it. So we're going to obviously continue that campaign to help people become partners in this movie, because we're going to need a lot of money to market this movie, to produce USBs, to market it on the internet, on different platforms, and perhaps do all types of things that we've done and we haven't done in the past to get this movie across the table from pretty much every eye that's willing to open. So anyone that wants to contribute is more than welcome to. As an encouragement for people that are contributing, aside from obviously being partners in this extraordinary mitzvah of kiruv in the highest form, we also have this lottery that we've been doing over the last week. We already announced our first winner of the $500 talit and the with the atara, beautiful talit, as well as the Bezrat Hashem special customized bags. Anyone that contributed over this last week, or the last few days actually, has also been a partner of the next lottery, and we're going to announce the winner right now. The winner is another Floridian, Omri Turgeman. Omri Turgeman, you're a winner. not only because you contributed to the campaign, but also you're going to have a brand new beautiful talit with the Atara arriving at your house over these next few days. Be'ezrat Hashem, we would be happy if you send us a picture with you wearing a talit so we could show it to other people and encourage them to continue contributing, encourage them to continue partnering up with our organization. Also, we're going to actually do this lottery again, and over this next week or so, or until the next time we do a lecture, anyone that contributes to the Gehenom movie, which, as I said, it's going to become much, much easier to become much more generous. Let's just say that after you watch the movie, when you realize what's on the line. Remember, anytime you contribute and your money is chosen by Hashem to be used as the dollar or $10 or $1,000 or $50,000 that's going to be used to help another Jew do teshuvah and thereby avoid Gehenom, there is no end to the reward that you're going to get, which is actually part of the things we're going to talk about tonight. There's no end to the amount of things that you're benefiting from contributing to this movie. From my personal perspective, even though we have, Baruch Hashem, two kollels and we have many other things that the organization does, there's never been a bigger kiruv project that I've ever been a part of, and quite frankly, I've ever even heard of. Just because the movie itself has all of the possible tools anyone can possibly need to understand the basic foundation of reward and punishment. And it talks about life after death as well as life in this world. The people that have had near-death experiences, as well as real-life stories of people that are actually having other types of experiences. The halacha issues pertaining to Gehenom, where it's discussed, as well as the mystical aspects, the mystical teachings of it. Simply everything is discussed in there. I think that it's an all-encompassing shiur about the topic. And Baruch Hashem, it's been done in the best format possible. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we're looking forward to having quite a few of you watch it, get inspired, do teshuvah, even more than what you're already doing. Share it with as many people as possible. Contribute to it as much as possible, because this is one of those teachings that simply needs to get to millions and millions of people. And Be'ezrat Hashem, it will be the will of Hashem that this will end up reaching literally tens of millions of people, because I'm certain that it'll help them. So with that being said, with Omri being our new winner, and also with a lot of really interesting things that are coming from a world that we're not so used to, the world of Kabbalah, we're going to move forward with this lecture. As far as the series itself, certainly has inspired many people that have contacted me. I know there's quite a few people that are inspired that haven't contacted me, that have been watching this series, one lecture after another, and are trying their hardest to apply these teachings to their lives. Some people are having a easier time than others, where both the wife and the husband are into it and they really want to bring holiness into their room, especially during the times where it's their most private times, their intimate times. Other times you have only one of the people in the couple are interested while the other is not. And then, of course, you have the terrible stories where one is interested and the other one is disgusted. So much so that they literally want nothing to do with it. And of course, these are tragic marriages already before they watch the lectures. But the goal is for us to always remind ourselves that even if your spouse is not interested in anything that is being spoken about in these lectures, that does not absolve you from trying to do it yourself. Meaning that you can still have the positive thoughts, the holy thoughts, and you yourself can act in holiness, even if your spouse doesn't agree. And quite frankly, once you actually hear some of the things that are discussed in tonight's lecture, you'll realize why you must do it. It's not really a suggestion. If you want to stay alive and avoid the worst sicknesses in the world, pay attention to the lecture today, because you're going to have some real information hit some people in the face and make them realize why some people that they know have died or are dying or chas v'shalom are more likely to die in a horrible, horrific way because they have simply ignored such teachings or simply have run away from them. So again, this is not to scare, this is to warn. This is not to preach at you, this is to learn with you. And the key is to understand that the teachings of our Torah, whether they come from the sages of 800 years ago or 1500 years ago or 2000 years ago, these are all teachings that are divinely inspired. These are all teachings that are all based on sources. Baruch Hashem, I have, as Darkenu B'Kodesh, in our way of holiness, we always have a whole lineup of different books that we've studied for the sake of this shiur. We'll bring up the sources, whether it's Gemara, Midrash, Zohar, different Kabbalistic teachings, the Chumash, all the different things that are going to give you a feeling of certainty that this is indeed the truth, and this is indeed what needs to take place in your life to the best of your ability, where even if you can't achieve all of it, it is certainly worthwhile to try your best to achieve some of it. And even if you cannot achieve something that you would consider a substantial sum of it, even if you could achieve 1 minute of your life that's full of holiness, you still have achieved something. Now, of course, we should never settle when it comes to holiness. We should always aspire for more, but everyone has to start somewhere. Now, the Ramban has taught us about the necessity of preparation, a spiritual preparation for the act of intimacy between a man and his wife. And certainly we have seen things in a very different way that has become norm. The world today is becoming more and more wicked. Just in the last 24 hours, the U.S. government's senile president has announced his approval of a new law that in so many words is promoting homosexuality, which is considered an abomination, the most filthy, most disgusting act that a person can do in this world, where at the time of the Sanhedrin, at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, someone that was homosexual, that was caught in the act, that was active, not just feelings and thoughts, but actually active homosexual, would get the worst possible death penalty of stoning. Yet today, people are celebrating it and passing laws. One of the reasons the Zohar Hakadosh says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrote the Torah the way he did is to show us exactly what is good and what is bad. And he specifically included certain details in order for us to learn, in order to know what not to do. Right after a person starts learning the Torah, they start learning about creation, Adam v'Chava, Adam and Eve. They learn about the tree of knowledge. They learn about the mistake that they've made. But right after they finish that, they learn about the generation of Noach and the entire world being destroyed. After getting a warning, before that, where a third of the world was destroyed, before the entire world was destroyed. There was a tsunami or a flood that took place in the world. If you look at the sages, they teach that a third of the world was destroyed before the official flood to warn people. But since they did not listen to the rebuke of heaven, Hashem officially destroyed everybody and only left Noach and his children and his wife. Now, why did Hashem destroy everyone? Because of immorality. Whether it was the wasting seed of individuals or it was homosexuality, is not really a question, because simply put, the Ramban, as well as Rabbi Nachman ben Breslev and many other sages that talk about Kedusha, always say that the promiscuity of one with himself or one with herself leads them to the immorality that can even get to homosexuality and even bestiality and incest. So these are not things that just start by themselves. No one becomes a homosexual overnight. No one becomes a person that's married to a cow or horse overnight. No one commits incest overnight. No one gets to such a low level of abomination, or high level of abomination, just by themselves. It always starts with the promiscuity with oneself. Hence the reason why Hashem rebuked them first, but when they responded to that heavenly rebuke of the initial tsunami that destroyed a third of the world with a law that made homosexuality, in so many words in those days, a mitzvah, where they actually wrote a ketubah, a marriage certificate, between one man and his husband, between one woman and her wife. That's when Hashem says they lost the right to live, and thereby brought the flood. This is happening again. It's happening in America. Unfortunately, it's happening in other countries as well, before, during, and unfortunately, some people are planning for it to happen after. Nonetheless, this is certainly putting everyone at risk, and the ones that are going to be more prone to risk are ones that are going to continue ignoring the word of Hashem. Because as we learned from the series we did of Era of Mashiach, based on the book of Rav Elchanan Wasserman, Hashem sends warnings. Hashem sends warnings, and those warnings initially starts with the person, then it goes to a community, then it continues to grow into larger and larger scale. So what's happening in the world today obviously is horrific, and one of the ways that a person can protect themselves, protect their family, protect their children, is by sanctifying themselves, and in essence, learning exactly what we're learning here in the Igeret HaKodesh. So the Ramban has told us how we must prepare ourselves psychologically, spiritually. We have to obviously do teshuvah. We cannot show up to an act of intimacy with a bag full of sins we have not done teshuvah for. If you are going to start an intimate act with your wife, with your husband, when you know for sure you've made certain sins during that day, you ate non-kosher, you violated Shabbat, you are impure in some way or another as far as nidah and things of that nature, and you've not done teshuvah for it, you could be sure that holiness is not what you're going to achieve during that intimate act. And if a child comes out of that intimate act, it's going to be one of those children that could perhaps make you regret why you were even born. So of course, everyone that is normal wants to have children of their own. And of course, many of us see that there are certain people that tend to have very holy children, spiritually uplifted children, children that are more inclined to serve God, more inclined to live for a purpose. Yet there are other children that are more inclined to want to be like Esav, more inclined to promiscuity. There is a lot to do in order for us to have holy children, but the primary thing that the sages tell us, as far as in order for us to have holy children, is the preparation. Hence the reason why this whole first 10 or so lectures have been solely about the preparation itself, with tidbits of the act, because this is literally the main thing. This is the main teaching. Of course, there's going to be some other things we'll continue to discuss about the act itself, but the Ramban continues preparing us, but now he's taking us to a different part of the world, a world unlike any other, a world of Kabbalah, a world that is not like the things that we're used to learning or teaching on a regular basis, and certainly a world that is extraordinary to say the least. So the Ramban says, "Behold, God's secret, profound knowledge, a portion of which I am revealing to you, is the secret of man being composed of the mysteries of intellect, understanding, and wisdom." So here the Ramban is already telling us, he's giving us, he's revealing to us, but the word in Hebrew is remez. Ani remez lecha. Remez really is more appropriate to use the word hint. I'm hinting to you. Why hinting? Why don't you just reveal the whole thing? Because in order to reveal the full teachings of Kabbalah requires certain circumstances, whether it be a specific type of student, a specific type of time, not only time of the day, but also simply different time of the person's life. So to learn Kabbalah is not, again, I know that a lot of people think that if they go on the internet and type Kabbalah, they'll get 500 or 1,000 or 50,000 different videos that spring up Kabbalah. Most of the stuff that's taught online is completely heretical and has nothing to do with the Torah. Of course, there are some things that are true, but generally speaking, sometimes they're not things that should be taught to the general public. What we teach are things that are for everyone to know, because they're the very, very basics. They're the very basics, and again, we're following the same, explaining what the Ramban is saying. We're not adding anything per se from that. We're simply explaining what the Ramban is saying, which is he himself is telling us that this hint of revelation that he's given to us is something that all of us can benefit from. And later on in this book, he even talks about Noahides, benefiting from these teachings. This is in essence one of those things where a person can learn this and apply it to their life and certainly better themselves for it. So here the Ramban is telling us that he's revealing to us a secret, but not just any secret. This is God's secret of profound knowledge, where he's going to let us know of how the basics of the mysteries of intellect, understanding, and wisdom that man possesses, where the male is in the secret of intellect. This is in Hebrew Chochmah. The female is in a secret of understanding, Binah. And the pure union, which is the act of intimacy between a man and his wife, is in the secret of wisdom. And this is the secret of a man and woman in the innermost Kabbalah. If so, it follows that marital union is the means of great spiritual elevation when it's properly practiced. This is the section we're going to discuss tonight and learn, B'ezrat Hashem. I know it seems short, but it's literally pages and pages of information that is to truly understand this in such a way that anyone, whether you are new or you're a veteran, could really benefit from it. So, some of you have heard the term Sefirot in different teachings, whether it's teachings of people that teach Kabbalah. Sometimes there are Chabadnik rabbis that like to teach the mystical aspects of the Torah, and they like to go into the world of Kabbalah, and they often discuss Sefirot, what a Sefirah is. And many times you have other types of rabbis, not necessarily just Chabad, that also, again, mention Sefirot, the Keter, the Chochmah, Binah, Daat, Chesed, all the different Sefirot that are there. And sometimes you see that people comment or whatever they learned, or at least they thought they learned. And unfortunately, you see that they learn nothing, and what they possess is ignorance, where you see a woman that is dressed immodestly, is not observing much, but yet she feels that right now when she's talking to you, she's using her Binah. Or or you talk to a man and you ask him, why don't you protect yourself against immorality, against this? Why don't you learn more Torah? No, I'm more into loving Hashem. I'm more into the mystical teachings of Kabbalah, where I'm really connecting to the Keter. And of course, this is all mumbo-jumbo talk. They have no idea what they're talking about. And quite frankly, it's forbidden to teach people like this. But the average speaker today does not have control of who listens to them. And certainly it's something that everyone has to be conscious of, that if you're going to teach any of these types of subjects, you have to teach things that are the basics of the basics that anyone and everyone out there can understand, number one, and two, can also apply to a certain extent in their life. There's no point of teaching people about the Sefirot, different things that the average person out there cannot even comprehend, needless to say, cannot apply to their life. So the question is, what are these Sefirot? What are these names, this Chochmah, this Binah, this Daat? What is all of this? Now, a person has to make sure that when they are learning Kabbalah, they're learning it with the right person, a person that first and foremost delves most of their day in the world of Torah, where they're learning traditional Torah, they're learning Gemara, they're learning Halacha, they're learning the foundation of the Torah, and only spend part of their time learning Kabbalah. That's number one. Two, you have to, obviously, the person themselves has to act accordingly. It has to be a holy person, which means that if you hear this person, with a filthy mouth, filthy behavior, if this person is a womanizer, or he's one of these people that flirts with women, even if he doesn't act, but he flirts with women, he looks at women that are not his wife. If this is such a person, then certainly this is a person that you have to run away from and learn nothing from them. As the Gemara in Masechet Moed Katan says, that a person that you can learn from, or allowed to even learn from, is a person that has to have the right midot, the correct midot, where they're aspiring to have the midot, the character traits of an angel. But if they have the character traits of the angel of death, the one that sins all the time, then certainly this is not a person to learn from. If you have a rabbi or a rabbanit that is very materialistic, very superficial, very much into the high society, or needless to say, into the world of, where it's outside of the world of Torah, worlds of philosophy, or politics, fashion, all of these other things, these are not the right people to learn Torah from, needless to say, to learn Kabbalah from. But of course, the average person out there is not going to know that at the first time, hence the reason why we mention it. So, one of the things that we've seen throughout the years is that at times there are women that take the initiative and actually start teaching words of Kabbalah to their students. Sometimes their students are males, sometimes their students are females. This is certainly inappropriate, to say the least. Number one, men should never be learning from women, not because we are sexist, but rather because the man that looks at a woman on a regular basis is naturally going to have inappropriate thoughts about that woman or other women. So certainly it's not a good place to learn from. There's different teachings in the sages that a man that learns from a woman, when he has a different option, an option to learn from a man, to learn from a rabbi, that man is cursed. The person that learns from a woman is cursed. So if you hear that there's a woman that's teaching Kabbalah, first and foremost, you should know you should not be learning from her. If you're a man. Needless to say, even if you're a woman, you should not be learning from a woman Kabbalah, because this is not a subject for women to teach. Certainly it's not a subject for them to learn, unless it is, again, like I said, the very, very basics, which is what the Ramban is teaching us here. But as you will see from these very, very basics, even they are extremely deep, extremely built up, and you could easily go in a direction that's wrong if one does not pay attention carefully. So the first thing that we always have to make sure is that when we're learning such subjects, we've purified ourselves, we're not full of sins, we've done teshuvah, we've prayed, we've learned the Torah that we're obligated to learn, and certainly we're paying attention and not doing this as background music, where sometimes a person will listen to Torah like in the background while they're doing 1.5 million other things. This is not the right platform for learning Torah. Certainly you should pay attention when you're learning Torah, much more than you pay attention even to your biggest customer. The other thing that a person has to know is that the basics of the Sefirot, this is for anyone who doesn't understand what Sefirot are, you've probably at some point seen the well-known drawing or diagram of the different circles, and then with different lines connecting them, and then words on those circles. In fact, one of our trailers for the new Gehenom movie has a thumbnail with those very circles that somebody did, and each one of those names represents something. Now, the Ramban is telling us that the secret of the Chochmah, Binah, and Daat, which translates to intellect, understanding, and wisdom, is something that is in the hands of man, but needless to say, it is something that has everything to do with the intimate union between a man and his wife. Now, first he tells us that Chochmah, the intellect, is something that the man is in a secret of intellect, meaning man was created in such a fashion by Hashem that he possesses a higher level of intellect than women. Now, before you feminists start losing your mind or press the off button, pay attention, because there's certainly benefits that the woman has that a man does not have. And of course, there are always exceptions. There are always men that are stupid and do not possess even an average level of intellect, and there are always women that possess a higher level of intellect than they typically do. But generally speaking, the way that a man was created is that they're able to assess information that's available to them better than women can. This is the way God created them. On the other hand, the secret of tvuna, of binah, tvuna, binah, it's the same word, this is the word for understanding, was given to women, meaning that women have a higher level of understanding than women, as the Gemara in Masechet Nida says in page 45b. So we see also that these teachings are not just in the Zohar or the Kabbalah. This is also in the Gemara itself. And the Gemara talks about creation, talks about man and woman, and initially the Torah says that man and woman were initially created together, where they were back to back. They were back to back until Hashem separated them from the rib. Now, of course, there are different teachings that we're not going to get into right now as far as the original creation, but the Chachamim go into it and try to explain to us why there are specific words that are used in the Torah, and rather than what we would normally think used. So Rav Chisda says, it says Gemara Masechet Nida, page 45b. Rav Chisda says that the teachings of Rabbi HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the one that wrote the Mishnah, he was of the family of the Gamliel family, the family of David HaMelech. He was Ra'ui to be Mashiach. He taught that it's written in the Torah in Genesis chapter 2 verse 22, Vayivene Hashem Elokim et hatzela. For it's written that then Hashem, God, built the side which he has taken from Adam into a woman. So the question is, why does Hashem use the word vayiven, that he built? Shouldn't it use he created woman? Why built? So Rabbi HaKadosh says, from there we know that Hashem used this specific word, that he built woman. Vayiven, he built the woman, to teach us that this yiven also comes from also is the root of the word Binah. And therefore it teaches us that the Holy One, blessed is he, gave greater powers of Binah, greater powers of understanding to the woman than the man. That meaning that after Eve's body was fully formed and needed only to be separated from Adam HaRishon, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took that last step and put an extra bit of Binah, of understanding in her, where she has a superior level of understanding. What is Binah in practicality? Binah is understanding one thing from another. You give a woman a certain set of information, whatever facts they are, she will be able to understand other messages from that message itself. A man can analyze the message itself better than a woman. A woman can analyze the message and get something else out of it, superior to a man. And then you have the Daat. So we have the way that the Sefirot go. You have at the top, you have the Keter. This is the crown. And then technically there is higher than the Keter, but this is the mystical teachings of Hashem that one is not to speak of. Needless to say, teach. So there's the Keter, there is the Chochmah, which is the side of the man, there is the Binah on the other side, and then there is the one that connects them, which is the Daat. The Daat. What is Daat? Daat is wisdom. Now, and wisdom is something that is being able to determine the difference between good and bad from the information that you got. So the man analyzed the information. The woman was able to get other messages from that message itself, and the ultimate goal is to achieve Daat, which is to achieve the wisdom that will tell you right from wrong, whether this is the will of Hashem or this is against the will of Hashem. Now, generally speaking, this is some of the things that everybody probably already knows or has heard at some point or another. Question is, what does this have anything to do with the next time that a person is intimate with their spouse? So, as we've already learned in the previous shurim, that the act between a man and his wife, as it says in the Sefer Bereshit, in the book of Genesis, as well as in Book of Samuel and other places in the Torah, the act between a man and a woman is called yedi'ah. It's a knowledge. So when Adam HaRishon was intimate with Chava, it's called Vayida, and Adam yada et ishto Chava, that Adam knew his wife. He knew meaning from knowledge. So the teachings that the Ramban is already telling us is that while man is in a secret of intellect, woman is in a secret of understanding. Wisdom, Daat, is that the pure union of intimacy is in a secret of wisdom. Meaning that if a couple, I should say, is able to achieve a pure union act, pure act of intimacy, they're going to be able to achieve Daat. And therefore, the union of intimacy isn't just a simple animalistic act like the vast majority of the world believes and knows it to be, where as soon as the man is aroused, if he has a woman next to him, needless to say, if it's his wife, he expects that woman to comply to his physical lusts. Same goes with women. Women has hard desires. If she has a man in her life, or even if it's sometimes not even a man, but it's a man that sometimes will even belong to somebody else, and she has no control of herself, she will want this man to fulfill her needs. This is the act of animals. And unfortunately, this is the act of the vast majority of the world. The goal of Am Yisrael is to differentiate ourselves by becoming holy. As the Torah says in Parashat Kedoshim, Kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani. You be holy because I am holy. And there Rashi says the way that Am Yisrael differentiates themselves from the rest of the nations of the world, the one distinguishing factor that we have in our nation, in our teachings, in our day-to-day life, is the kedusha between him and her, between a man and his wife. This is the main distinguishing factor between Am Yisrael and the rest of the nations. If you were to say, no, but we also have laws. They also have laws. Laws for eating, laws for drinking, laws for this and laws for that. Oh, we give charity. They also give charity. All right, well we're united. They'll say they're also united. The reality is that the main aspect of the main difference between Am Yisrael and the rest of the nations is the issue of holiness in the bedroom. This is the main difference. While the rest of the world looks at the act of intimacy simply as an animalistic act, where, for example, the idolaters of Christianity, whether it's the Hebrew Israelites that call themselves a different name every other Tuesday with their Mortal Kombat outfits, or it's the other regular Christians, or it's the One for Israel fake Jews that are really Christians in disguise, all of them view intimacy purely as an animalistic act. Therefore, their so-called holiest person, the Pope and the pastors, are many times, especially the Pope, they're celibate. They have no women in their lives, supposedly. Yet again, I always remind people there's always an orphanage right next door to the church. But nonetheless, they view intimacy as simply an animalistic act. It's an act between a man and another woman, and you don't necessarily have the obligation to even be married. Needless to say, you don't have an obligation to even love each other. Needless to say, if you just get into a fight, that may actually be the best solution, is to be intimate and physically active. What we'll learn today is all of those things are the exact opposite of the will of God. In the world of Islam, they're not only spiritual terrorists and physical terrorists to the rest of the world, but they're also terrorists to their own people, where many of them end up removing the part of the female sex organ in order to remove any pleasure. They don't want their women to have any pleasure. And in fact, one of the things that these Muslims teach their kids is that if you are a martyr and you kill a bunch of Jews, you're going to go to heaven and have sex with 70 virgins. Now, aside from the fact that this is a stupid, demented teachings of violence to teach their children to become terrorists that kill people, this is also a complete betrayal to the woman or women that have committed their lives to this low life. Why? You're telling me I'm going to spend all of my day serving you, helping you, doing whatever I can to make you happy in life as a wife, but you're looking forward to going to heaven in order to be with 70 other women? This, if anybody doesn't understand that this is a low-life religion, I don't understand what else to tell people. You don't even need to know the rest of Islam to know that there's something wrong here, because how could it be the will of God to have one of his daughters help another one of his sons achieve intimacy with other women in a different world? How does that factor into holiness? Now, of course, in the world of Judaism, we're not all perfect. Certainly, there are people that have desecrated the name of God, whether it's the Zionists of the past generation, or the Zionists of the current generation, or the heretics and the atheists and the ones that have abandoned God, and the ones that the Torah talks about that have been enemies of God. But when we discuss Jews that are looking to learn this, we're not discussing those people. Certainly those people are the enemies of God and the enemies of creation altogether. But nonetheless, one of our jobs is to sanctify ourselves and the ones that want to learn, but also to help some of those brothers that have gone astray come back to the light, if obviously they want to, and if they're willing to listen to an opinion that's different than theirs. So the key is to understand that when you review religions, you can't necessarily always get to the biggest difference as far as who's wrong and who's right based on text, because that in itself requires an extraordinary amount of knowledge and time. So you're not always going to have that time. So you have to sometimes use your common sense. Everyone understands that what I just said is simply common sense. You have one religion that tells you that the holier the person, the more celibate he is, which means that if their entire nation became holy, that means they would simply cease to exist because no one would be intimate ever again. Everyone would be nuns and priests. So this is obviously the opposite of a logical God, to say the least. On the other end, you have the first one is obviously the idolaters of Christianity, Catholicism, and so on. On the other end, you have the Islams, where they're simply teaching people that women should not enjoy the act of intimacy, which in so many words means that God made a mistake, apparently, according to them, because he gave them the ability to enjoy intimacy. Now, of course, they're going to say, yeah, but this is no different than the circumcision of the Jews. Don't forget, buddy, Muslims are also doing circumcision, so you don't really want to go there. Either way, there's an actual clear verse in the Torah that says that God wants us to have circumcision for men, no circumcision for women. Needless to say, the women that's in the world of Islam that hears what the Quran says, what the teachers of the Quran say, where, simply put, if you go and you become a martyr and you kill Jews, you kill the enemies of Islam, you're going to go to a heaven that has 70 different women there. Forget about whether it's right or wrong to kill people, whether it's that doesn't make a difference. The bottom line is, you have a woman that is spending all of our time and energy to help this man achieve fulfillment in the world, bring him children to the world, serve him, help him, and so on. But his ultimate goal in life is to be with 70 different women. If that's not a demented religion, I'm not really sure what is. So here we see that the teachings of the Holy Torah are in order for us to achieve holiness in the act of intimacy that is a union between a man and his wife. Not a separation, not for two different agendas, not for two different lives, but rather united. And one of the main things that the Ramban is now telling us is that if we do achieve this union in the way that we're supposed to, that means that the man is going to utilize the secret of wisdom, the secret of intellect that's within him for the sake of God. That means that the woman is going to utilize the secret of Binah, of understanding that's within her for the sake of God during the act of intimacy between each other, and thereby merit getting the sustenance, the spiritual sustenance from God that comes from in a form of wisdom. So we see here that the act of intimacy, when it's achieved in accordance to the will of God, it's not only not supposed to be a purely animalistic act, but rather it's something that will help a couple achieve spiritual levels unlike any other, things that they cannot achieve without the other, and in fact, it will be a union of worlds, not just people. Union of worlds, we're talking about the heavenly worlds. Now the Zohar Hakadosh in Idra Zuta, Parashat Azinu, page 291a, says that there are three aspects of the world in creation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, where the way that he created his kinghood in heaven, the way it's run, and in essence the system of kinghood over there is how he runs it here. Now you have the upper root of the spiritual sustenance, where Hashem brings the sustenance to the world, the sustenance of whether it be money, wisdom, happiness, everything and anything. All of that is coming through a specific, you can call it spiritual plumbing system. Okay? Pipes. Now, the top is the ketel. That's the crown. On its right side is the Binah. That's the understanding, connection to the woman. On its left, and we're talking about from its position, doesn't really make a difference right or left, but either way, it's Chochmah, it's the wisdom of it's the intellect of the man. Right below it is the Daat. Daat is the wisdom. But these are just the first three that receive all of the sustenance that is coming from the crown. They themselves also shoot out this sustenance that's coming from above to different channels, whether it be Chesed, Tiferet, Gvura, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. You'll see that Yesod is foundation, it's on the bottom, hence the reason why the matters of wasting seed, Gamma Brit, all of these immorality always hurt the foundation. Always hurt the foundation, which is in essence the last channel, run before the last channel, that a person gets their monetary sustenance, marriage, zivug, the things that are the foundation of everything. When a person hurts the yesod, they're hurting the main channel that is the last channel before they get what they need to get in this world. But before it even gets to the yesod, everything goes through the three upper channels that are all directly connected to the crown itself. In so many words, the way you want to picture it is, let's say, for example, you have a king. Okay? The king is not going to talk to your average servant. There are different levels of servants. There are different generals. There are different sergeants. There are different people that are there that are serving the king. The greater the king, the more servants he has. But certainly every king has, his not only a priority list of things that he deals with, but also a priority in the servants themselves, where they stand and how close he allows them to be. So imagine this king having his three main people. Whether he chooses those three main people to be his queen and his the prince, his son, or the princess, or he chooses it to be the three best generals that have won him the most wars. That's, you can use whatever helps you remember this. The point is, you have the king, you have the crown, and then you have the three main ones that are connected to it. Those three deliver the king's message, the king's rewards, the king's punishments, the king's sustenance to the rest of the higher level messengers, who then after that keep going down the list, go down the thing, until they spread it out to the people, which are obviously in the millions and billions and so on. So now, this top sphira of Keter is not called keter for no reason. Every word that we use in the Torah is used for a specific purpose. They're all connected, as I've mentioned many times. The Torah is a spiritual nervous system. Everything is connected. In fact, even the letters that are used are there for a reason. And the Sefer Panim Yafot, written about 300 years ago by one of the Hasidim of the leaders of the generation, in Parshat Vayechi, in chapter 29, verse 22. It was written by Rabbi Pinchas Holovitz. He was one of the rabbis of the Khatam Sofer. And he writes that Chochmah, Binah, and Daat, intellect, understanding, and wisdom, these three main channels, on top, right below the keter, if you add the gimatria, the numerical value of each one of those letters, and then you combine all of them, you will arrive at a total of 620, which is exactly the same as the numerical value of the word keter. The word keter, anyone that knows how to do gimatria, the chaf equals 20, the taf equals 400, resh equals 200, so 20, 400, 200, 620. On the other hand, you have chochmah, binah, and daat. These three words combined also have the same numerical value of 620. Now, this 620 is not just a coincidence, but rather it has a special significance in the world of Judaism. In the prayer of Mussaf that we pray on Shabbat, during the Chazarat HaShatz, when the Chazan goes over the Amidah, the second time after everybody completed, or most people completed the Amidah, the Chazan goes over the Amidah once again. This is if anybody showed up late to the shul and missed praying the Amidah with everybody, they wait for the Chazan to start the Amidah. They go over the first three prayers, first three blessings with the Keilah until it gets to the part of Kedusha, and then after that they usually go on their own pace. Either way, when the Chazan, the cantor, gets to after the third prayer, he gets to the part of Kedusha. And during Mussaf, he says Kedusha differently than he does during the Amidah. That was the first Amidah we did on Shabbat. And the entire crowd says, when they repeat what the Chazan says, Keter yitenu lecha Hashem Elokenu, that a crown they shall give you, Hashem our God. So Keter is the same Keter of this Sefirah that we're talking about, the same 620. So here we have a third place. But why a Keter? Now you could say a Keter is for a king. That would be nice, but it's not exactly the only reason. Keter also has a significance when it comes to why we're giving a Keter to Hashem. He already has a Keter, so why does he need us to give him a Keter? Keter is a representation of the 620 mitzvot that Am Yisrael has taken upon themselves, 613 biblical mitzvot, and the 7 rabbinical mitzvot, such as Chanukah that's coming up in a few days, Purim, the Iruv, all the different mitzvot that we have that are the rabbinical mitzvot. There are 7 of them, and these are the 7 that we've taken upon ourselves, in addition to the 613 from the Torah. This is one of the things that most people, especially people that speak against the Torah, whether they're coming from different religions or they're coming from a Jewish background, what a lot of people don't realize is that they believe that most of the mitzvot that people observe today are from rabbis. But here we have a clear proof from the Torah itself that shows us that this is the exact opposite. There are only 7 laws from the rabbis, the rest of it is from the Torah itself. But of course, the ignorant choose to be ignorant. Nonetheless, this 620 shows itself again as a spiritually significant number. Now, the last Mishnah in Masechet Ukatzin says that every tzaddik and tzaddik gets a reward of Shai Olamot. Shai Olamot, Chazal teach us, represents 310. Shin is 300, Yud is 10. 310. So every tzaddik, after they leave this world, Hashem takes back the neshama. The reward for this tzaddik, for his righteousness, is 310 worlds. Unless they did specific actions, such as helping other people do teshuvah, then they get a whole lot more than just 310 worlds. Needless to say, 310 worlds is plenty. But the question still remains, why does the teachings here in the Mishnah say every tzaddik and tzaddik gets 310 worlds? Shouldn't it say every tzaddik gets 310 worlds? Why the extra emphasis here? Every tzaddik and tzaddik, say our sages, the double mention of the word tzaddik is to show us that each tzaddik is getting 310 worlds, not because of just their actions, but rather because they had a good partner in order to help them acquire this heaven, this 310 worlds. And that partner also gets 310 worlds. That partner could be their wife. That partner could be their chavruta, a person that learned Torah with them every day. That partner could be their financier, somebody that paid all of their expenses, everything that they needed. Had a real Issachar and Zebulun arrangement with them. The arrangement of Issachar and Zebulun, the two brothers of the 12 tribes, they had an arrangement that the one would work, the other one would learn Torah. Both would learn Torah, but the main vocation was for one of them is to do business and learn the basics of Torah that they could when they're not working, whereas the other one, the main vocation and everything they did is just learning Torah. How would he survive? The one that is working, is doing business, will sustain him, will pay for everything, and in return for splitting the merits of all the Torah that he's learning on his own. Now, the real arrangement of Issachar and Zebulun, Rav Moshe Feinstein writes, is one of two cases. It's either really Issachar and Zebulun, where the one that's working and making money, he splits 50% of the profits of everything that's made. He makes $100,000 that year, $50,000 goes to his brother, $50,000 he keeps for himself. He makes $1 million, $500,000 to him, $500,000 to his brother. He makes $10 million, $5 million, $5 million. It doesn't make a difference what the amount is, 50%. The Rav Moshe Feinstein also says that some believe that it's not 50%, but rather he simply pays for all of his expenses with no limitation. Meaning, it doesn't make a difference if now he had another kid, and when they first started, he only had 4 kids. Now he has 6 kids or 8 kids, so the expenses went up. You have to pay for it. If it's a real Issachar and Zebulun, many people think if they send $100 here and there to some rabbi or some avrech, they have a full Issachar and Zebulun, and quite frankly, they're dreaming. They certainly have a benefit in donating and helping somebody learn Torah, but a Issachar and Zebulun to share, all the merits of this person learning Torah certainly requires a whole lot more than just money to buy diapers for the month or even the week. So the key is to understand that this tzaddik did not get to heaven by himself. He certainly had a partner, and of course, having a partner like a wife that is going to help you by, teaching the kids, taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, and simply giving you complete freedom to learn as much as possible. There's no greater partner than that in the world. There's no greater partner than that in the world, but not necessarily everybody merits to have a supporting wife. Sometimes the wife wants him to go to work. Sometimes the wife doesn't even like Torah. Sometimes his biggest supporter is his rabbi or his chavruta or somebody that's giving him money. It's not necessarily always the wife. Sometimes he has the merit to have such a righteous wife. Needless to say, this is the reason why the Mishnah says this tzaddik and tzaddik is why we have double. But then we go into back to the original argument, the original issue, which is 620. And we see that tzaddik and tzaddik, that means that each one of them gets 310 worlds. 310 plus 310. Again, we see the number 620. And therefore, all of the spiritual sustenance comes through the ketel, comes through this crown, where and then goes to the Chochmah, Binah, and Daat. And just as there is a kinghood above, Hashem set up the same type of system below, where man is the secret of, has within him the secret of intellect, woman the understanding, Binah, and from there we also see that this is also something that is not a current teaching. This is also part of the creation, as we discussed what's in Gemara Masechet Nida, where Hashem, when he created Chava, when he created Eve, he created her with this extra Binah. Now, the Daat, the achievement of reaching this wisdom, is in essence the ultimate goal. And therefore, one that actually attains this wisdom, has a direct access to this wisdom, has to possess all three: Chochmah, Binah, and Daat. Now, for a man to reach Daat by himself is not possible. For a woman to reach Daat by herself, not possible. They need each other. And one who possesses all three, Chochmah, Binah, and Daat, merits to get the direct sustenance from the Keter, which is the ultimate quantity and quality of spiritual sustenance and all types of positive sustenance from above. Now, this explains the teachings in the Gemara Masechet Ta'anit, page 24b, where it says, the voice comes from heaven. It says, the entire world is sustained through the merits of my dear son Chanina. He's talking about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. But yet Chanina lives off of carobs. What does that mean? Now, of course, you could easily say Rabbi Chanina was poor, didn't have any money, so he is living off of carobs. That would be nice, but it would only explain at one single point from this Gemara. So what is the Gemara really trying to teach us? That Rabbi Chanina was so holy that he was able to attain a direct contact, a connection to the Daat, meaning he possessed Chochmah, Binah, and Daat, and thereby that Daat came directly to him, and he chose to give that sustenance, the endless amount of sustenance that he now has access to provide for the whole world. Because for himself, he only wanted to eat carobs because he cares less about benefiting materially from this world. Meaning the whole world, regardless of all of their sins and everything that was happening to them, was still eating because of the merits of Rabbi Chanina. Now the Ramban says that this Chochmah, Binah, and Daat is attained through the act of intimacy between a man and his wife. Now, to understand further what this goal is of Daat, we go to the song, the Piyut. It was a Kabbalistic song. It's very famous, sung in many Jewish homes today, both Ashkenazi, Sfaradi, Hasidish, doesn't make a difference. One of the holiest songs ever written, Bar Yochai. Now, when I first heard this song, aside from liking it, liking the tune, quickly I realized I don't understand many of the things that are said. As I learned more and more, I realized that even if you understand the basic meaning of the song, the more you learn Torah, the more you realize that there is an endless amount of secrets in the song itself. It wasn't written by a song maker. It was written by one of the biggest Mekubalim of the generation, something around 800 years ago, by Rabbi Shimon ibn Lavi. And our own very dear Rav Ephraim wrote the commentary on the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai song. This is something we published several years ago. It's only in Hebrew. One day it will also be in English. And talking about and uncovering the secrets, the Kabbalistic secrets that are hidden within this song. On page 33 of Rav Ephraim's book, he talks about the part of the song that says Bar Yochai Yud Chochmah Kduma Ishkafta Likvodo Pnima. So the literal translation says Bar Yochai. It's referring to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Yud Chochmah Kduma. There is a Yud of wisdom. The letter Yud of wisdom preceded you. Now you could understand this superficially by saying Yud is in his name, it's the first letter in his name, Yochai. Or you could understand a deeper meaning, where the sages in the Zohar Hakadosh, the Tikkunei Zohar, in page 67a, teach that Chochmah Kduma, that wisdom preceded you, is actually another name for the Keter. The keter that we talked about, the crown. And what the song is actually saying here is that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai not only merited through his toiling in Torah and sanctifying himself, not only merited the traditional wisdom that man has and even a scholar has, but he actually achieved such a high level where he had the Chochmah, Binah, and Daat in complete form to the point where he had a direct contact, direct connection to the Chochmah Kduma, which is the Keter. Hence the reason why the many of the secrets of the Torah were uncovered by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Zohar Hakadosh and the other writings and teachings that he has, where Hashem used him to bring things that were not known in the world until he was, in essence, became that vessel that directly connected to the Keter. So from here we see that this, what seems to be a happy, wonderful song, has a secret that Rav Ephraim uncovers for us in his book about what does it actually mean to have this Chochmah Kduma and what does it have to do with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Now, if a man paid his attention to some of this heavy detail, then they will arrive at a understanding that if they know how to use their Chochmah for holy endeavors, and their wife also learns and applies this in order to use her Binah for holy endeavors, when they do it together during their unity act, during their act of intimacy, they will now understand what Yedi'ah is, what knowledge is, which is, it says, I said before in Genesis chapter 4 verse 1, says, Ve'adam yada et Chava ishto, that Adam knew his wife. They'll know not only about Yedi'ah, this wisdom, but they'll actually be able to achieve it, elevating both of their souls to a drastically higher level than they even thought humanly possible, which will affect, in a positive way, beyond their imagination, any children that come out of them, their sustenance as far as spiritual sustenance, how they understand Torah, money that they make, pretty much the world that they live in. So much so that when we look at this yedi'ah, this attaining this knowledge, we have to understand that when someone has it, they are now capable of receiving the secrets to the world. One of the examples that we see is Betzalel. Betzalel is mentioned in the book of Exodus, chapter 31, verse 3, where Hashem put upon him a Ruach Elokim, a spirit of God was put upon him, which it says he gave him Chochmah, Binah, and Daat. He gave him all three. And the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 55a, says that Betzalel, that built the Aron HaKodesh, acquired the wisdom that allowed him to know the letters that Hashem used to create the world, which in so many words means he was able to create a world by himself. He was able to create something from nothing. Now we're going to get back to that point in a little while, but this is what it means for a person to acquire Chochmah, Binah, and Daat. Now, the Pesikta Zutarta says that when it says that Hu Yadad, that a man knew, that Adam Rishon knew, that means that first and foremost the basic meaning is that he not only knew his wife, that he was intimate with her, but he was, in essence, it's in the Torah because he taught the world the way of the world, that a man is supposed to be with a woman, not a man and a man, not a woman and a woman, because a man is with a woman not only for their unity in their relationship, but also to reproduce, to populate the world, to produce children. And this is the only way to produce children. You're not going to produce children without combining the man and the woman. Now, whether they choose to initiate the process through some lab or another is irrelevant. Point is, the baby has to be born through the man and the woman, in one way or another. But also to teach us something much deeper, which is that the main aspect of unity is knowledge, and not the physical body. Because if you look at the two sides, you have the man and the woman, you have the Chochmah and the Binah, but their goal is not simply to just be animals. Their goal is to attain the Daat. And this Daat is what's combining the upper worlds, what is fulfilling the will of Hashem, and in essence also what is fixing the world, what is a part of Tikkun Olam. And therefore attaining this yedi'ah, this knowledge, this wisdom, is of higher purpose than just the physical contact between man and his wife. Now, of course, we've spent an hour discussing this mystical aspects of it. We also have to know that if a person ignores these things, cares less about these things, usually it's not just caring less about it, but rather caring less in a certain way. And there's results for those actions. The Chachamim were very, very careful about the way they behaved with their wives. In order to achieve righteousness, it's not just about reading books, it's not just about going to a yeshiva or a kollel or putting a kippah on your head and observing Shabbat. It's sanctifying yourself. And one of the main things that a person learns on day one of sanctifying yourself is don't sin. That's why David HaMelech says, Sur mera ve'aseh tov. First, stop sinning. Then worry about doing the mitzvot. Today, people teach Torah the opposite, where they tell you just do a lot of mitzvot and then worry about the sins. It's the exact opposite. First, you have to stop the big sins. Then worry about the mitzvot. Certainly, you can do both at the same time, but the priority is to stop the sins. Now, when a person doesn't care about bringing holiness to their life, to their bedroom, to their intimate moments with their spouse, that means that person has a certain pattern, a certain behavior, and certain children that will come out of that person, certain words that will come out of that person. The sages did everything they could possibly do to teach us what not to do, because the outcomes were tragic. The Gemara in Masechet Nedarim says that there are 9 circumstances where the cohabitation between a man and a woman, man and his wife, lead to the birth of degenerate children. Degenerate children, we're not talking about physically degenerate only, we're talking about spiritually degenerate. People that are prone to be thieves, prone to be rapists, prone to be bad people in so many words. Torture their parents, people that end up wanting to go against God, become atheists, idol worshippers, and so on. Now, of course, even if a person starts that way, where their parents did something in a certain way, where they were brought into this world prone to negative things, they still have their freedom of choice, as the Ramban paskins in Ilchot Teshuvah, chapter 5, where they could still choose to do the right thing and sanctify themselves and elevate themselves to do good things. But needless to say, they're starting their life with almost like with their hands tied behind their back because of what their parents did. But it's not just because of what their parents did. It's also because what they did in their previous carnation. Now, what are these things? What are these things? You're going to hear some of these things, and you're going to hear some things that are familiar to you. Either because you unfortunately have done them yourself, or because you'll sound familiar to you because this has become the norm of society. Now again, the Gemara was written nearly 2,000 years ago, 1,600 years ago. And it's based on the teachings of the Mishnah that preceded it, and it's all based on our teachings from Mount Sinai. And the Gemara tells us, we learn from the prophet Yecheskel, the book of Ezekiel, chapter 20, verse 38. 20:38. When Hashem says to the prophet, I will select from among you those who rebel and those who transgress against me. In so many words, Hashem tells the people that I'm going to choose from among all of you people, I'm going to choose which one of you are going to produce wicked kids that are going to torture people in society, that are going to be the next group of Zionists, the next group of social terrorists, the next group of immodest women, the next group of horrible people. I'm going to select which one of you are going to be the fathers and mothers to them. You ask yourself, why? What did I do? I didn't do nothing. What did I do, right? Okay, let's see what you did. Amar Rabbi Levi. Rabbi Levi explains, why is Hashem doing this? He says, these children are not just coming from just a group of innocent people. These people did something. Why is Hashem going to give these people wicked kids? Certainly, there's a reason for this. And he says, we have a acronym. Bnei Asnat Mishagecha, which is Bnei Ema Bnei Anusa, children of fear, children of forced woman, children of hated woman, Bnei Nidui, children of excommunicated man, Bnei Tmura, children of exchange woman, Bnei Merifa, children of strife, Bnei Shcharot, Shichut, children of drunkenness, Bnei Grushat Alev, children of a woman that has been divorced in mind of her husband, and Bnei Arbuvia, children of mingling. And last but not least, children of the brazen woman. And actually one of them, there's a Maseches Kallah, says that there's actually a 10th one, which is a woman that's sleeping. Now we're going to explain what this all means. If a husband likes to scare his wife, likes to yell at her, likes to abuse her, even if it's not physical, needless to say if it's physical, where the moment he arrives, his wife is scared to death, which means that if he comes home and he wants to be intimate, she's so scared of him that even if she doesn't want to be with him, she'll be with him. That's what produces children of fear. Children that come from a scared wife. Now, rarely this also happens the opposite way, where the husband is the victim and the woman is the perpetrator. She's the scary one, but that's not so common, at least not that I know of. But needless to say, if a man is scaring his wife and simply puts her in a situation where she's so scared of him, she submits to him even when she doesn't want to, that means that their intimate act will be loveless. There won't be any love there. It would not achieve the purpose of creation. It would actually be viewed as illicit, as frowned upon act of sexuality that will yield fruits that are rotten. And those children will be wicked children that will torture people, including their parents. There's also children of a forced woman. This is even worse than the first. This is a husband that even if he doesn't scare his wife all the time, but one time he wants to be with her. And she says, honey, I have a headache. Honey, I don't feel good. And he allows the lion that's in him to come out because he learned it from watching football. He learned it from watching people punching each other in the face and boxing and UFC and all types of things. He learned it in the video games and the movies that maybe if I am more physical, she'll like it. Maybe no means yes. After all, she's my wife. This is children of a feared woman, of a forced woman. In so many words, he raped his wife. First and foremost, this is a biblical violation. He's not allowed to do it even to his wife. This already makes the entire world of Islam heretical according to the world of God, because to them, this type of behavior is normal. But needless to say, the Jewish people are not allowed to force their wives. In fact, you're not even allowed to pressure her. You have to entice her, be nice to her. If she says yes, she wants to, good, Baruch Hashem. If you're a good husband, certainly your wife is going to be good to you. But if she says no, for whatever reason or another, she doesn't feel good, she doesn't feel like it, or anything like that, a man that forces his wife to be with him, physically forces her, whatever comes out of that will be a nightmare to them, and needless to say, to the world. Third, children of a hated woman. Sometimes you have spouses get to such a low level in their relationship where they simply can't stand each other. This applies both to the man hating his wife or the wife hating the husband, or they simply both hate each other. But they both have physical needs. And they don't want to get a divorce right now because they have kids, because there's money issues, because of this, because of that, all types of reasons of why people stay married unhappily. But truth be told, they can't stand each other. If they're intimate, whatever fruits come out of that will be a nightmare to society. Needless to say, to their life. Why? He hates her. Which means that during the act of intimacy, there's no love there. What kind of fruit you're going to get out of there? Perhaps you're going to get an apple, but with a few wormholes in it. Perhaps you're going to get some living being, but it may be a puppy. You're not going to get a holy child. Why? He hates you. Or worse yet, she hates him. Okay, I'll be with him because I want to have kids. But I can't stand him, she tells to her mother or her friends. This, Rabotai, unfortunately, is common behavior in the world today. Not just Jewish world. Needless to say, the non-Jewish world. The next one is Bnei Nidui. If a person is a heretic and tells people that God needs you, instead of you need God, Batei Din in their community and even around the world are supposed to put that person on nidui, on excommunication. If a person brings a Christian missionary to a shul to give a lecture to a bunch of Jews, the community is supposed to put that person on excommunication. If a person denies the existence of God, they have to be on excommunication. And the Rambam writes a whole list of reasons of why somebody would be put on excommunication. Every single person we've ever exposed has been a person that qualifies to be put on excommunication for multiple reasons. Now, if somebody is excommunicated, if actually it happened, and they're excommunicated by the community, there are some chachamim that say that his wife is not even allowed to be intimate with him. If let's say a woman was excommunicated, her husband is not allowed to be intimate with her. But if they are intimate with each other, certainly you should know that whatever fruits come out of that act will be rotten as rotten gets. It's not a surprise that these heretics end up having children that become pedophiles and rape them on Shabbat and get caught by other students like Manis Friedman and his kids. Not all of his kids, I don't know all of his kids, but I know at least one of them is a pedophile. That was already reported. Now, Bnei Tmura. What's Bnei Tmura? Children of an exchange woman. You're going to be surprised what this means. This is a child that comes from an intimate act of father, mother, but are not thinking about each other. He's with the wife, but he's thinking about his secretary, Shem Yishmo. She's with the husband, but she's thinking about the pool guy. She's thinking about her ex-boyfriend. She's thinking about some guy she saw in the street today or in a movie. That's who she's thinking about. The children that come out of that marriage, out of that intimate act, Hashem Yishmo v'yatzil. May Hashem preserve us and protect us from such children. Little Esavs coming into the world. Little Hebrew Israelites coming to the world from such intimate acts. Why? He just saw some pornographic film. He just saw some zona in the street. Some girl doesn't know how to put clothes on. She practically has a napkin trying to cover herself. And he's thinking about her while he's intimate with his wife. She just saw some soap opera. She's thinking about how the guy kissed the girl. She's thinking about that. Children that come out of that, little puppies may be preferential over such kids. Shem Yishmo. But if you go to the psychiatrists and family marriage counselors that talk about problems in the bedroom for wives and husbands, where the wife says, listen, I'm not into him anymore. I'm not this, I'm not that. Most common suggestions by these so-called therapists. Why don't you guys watch a movie together? You know, a movie that will excite you. And then people are surprised that they have puppies for kids. Little bulldog with the tail already cut off. Then there is children of strife. It means what it says. The exact opposite of what society teaches you. The longer you're married, the more fights you're going to have. Even if the marriage is a successful marriage, a happy marriage. Fights will happen. There are two different people that have different opinions, different circumstances, different moods, different times, different troubles, different perceptions of troubles. Fights will happen. Of course, the healthier the marriage, the more the fights are under control. A really healthy couple could literally have an argument, but in whisper form. Whereas the same fight in an unhealthy couple could be him smashing a chair on the wall because of how upset he is of what his wife said to him. But needless to say, fights happen. Society teaches you that after a fight, the best thing to do, go into the bedroom. Make up. Akadosh Baruch Hu teaches you, you're not allowed to touch each other until you're completely in love with each other, as if the fight never existed. Because if that unity happens as a result of frustration, aggression, that means that it's absent of love. It's absent of its purpose. Perhaps the fruits that you get are going to cause you a lot of regrets, not just for that fight, but even that marriage. Bnei shikrut, children of drunkenness. How do you want to go out tonight? Sure, where do you want to go? I don't know, let's go to a restaurant, let's go to a bar, get a couple of drinks together, have fun like the old days. They go like the old days. They have a few drinks. He's tipsy, she's tipsy. They're driving safe. They have some taxi taking them home. They arrive home in style. Not drunk driving, chas v'shalom. But then they do drunk intimacy. And poor is the and sadness reaches that home very quickly after a fruit comes out of that act. Like some people say, oh, we didn't expect it. It was a surprise to have this kid. Surprise? Are you drunk, you mean? Or high? Or some other form of delusional self of yours? These types of kids that come from drunkenness, needless to say, from people being high, certainly are not acts of love. If it's not an act of love, it's not going to bear good fruit. Children of a woman who has been divorced in the mind of a husband. He already decided, I'm getting rid of this marriage. I can't do it, even if he doesn't hate her. He just wants to marry somebody else. He wants to be single. He wants freedom. He wants to be some bird. He doesn't want to be married anymore. He decided in his mind, Monday morning, I'm going to the Bet Din, get a get-together. I'm giving it to her that night. But, since it's a few days before Monday, I still have a physical need. She can help me out. Fruits that come out of that, rotten as rotten gets. Bnei Buvia, Hashem Yishmor v'Yatzil. This is very common among the lower of society, the Hollywood of society, or those that admire them, which is the vast majority of America. The children of mingling. What does it mean, children of mingling? Promiscuous people. She has multiple partners. He has multiple partners. Children those people bring when they're promiscuous. He has a couple of girlfriends, she has a couple of boyfriends, and one of them got her pregnant, and one of them got in this. Those kids, we're starting to think that maybe an atomic bomb is better than such things. Because these are the people that end up usually pressing the button of those bombs, causing tragedy to the world. Children of a brazen woman. What does it mean, children of a brazen woman? A woman who's aggressive in the way that she requests intimacy from her husband. Now, even though the Gemara says that we learned from Leah Tzadikah, our matriarch, that she merited having Issachar, which was a Talmid Chacham with descendants that were all Talmidei Chachamim, all scholars Tzadikim. She merited having Issachar because she enticed Yaakov to be with her. So how could it be that a woman that is brazen, the way she asks her intimacy from her husband, is now frowned upon? Because there's a way to be enticing your husband, there's a way to be enticing your husband. If you do it in a classy way, you take his hand, you whisper something, you give a hint of something that's praiseworthy. Bring children to the world, they're going to be holy that way. But if you're one of these people that says, no, you're coming, like it's some type of rest stop and a truck driver, then of course the children that come out of such a thing are not going to necessarily be the most ideal situation. As I said, the Maseches Kallah says that children of a sleeping woman is also one of the tragedies of the world, which is, in so many words, the wife is so tired from taking care of, whether it be her job, the house, the kids that they already have, or whatever happened during that day, and she's exhausted. But the husband doesn't really care so much. He has a physical need. And he does it while she's sleeping. if that seed matures to become a baby, he'll have a lot to regret. So here we see, Rabotai, that the sages gave us clear warnings of what not to do. The very same things that anybody that's been simply not sleeping under the rock knows have become the norms of society. Now, of course, one of the other things that has become the norms of society is assimilation and intermarriage. Jews, unfortunately, that have forsaken their God and His Torah have made it standard in America and in other countries where they marry non-Jews. And they only realize when it's too late. When children come out of it, when the marriage doesn't work out, when they lose all of their money, that it maybe perhaps they made the wrong choice. So the Gemara says, a Jew that is intimate with a non-Jew, Aboela Aramit. At the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, if this act of intimacy was seen by somebody else, someone that was zealous for the Torah would be allowed to kill him. That's how bad it is. Certainly a person that is intimate with a non-Jew is making a sin, but they're not realizing what kind of sin. They figure, well, Baruch Hashem that I don't live at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. No one's going to kill me. I can still date my Christine. I can still continue dating my Muhammad. Each time they're intimate, they're making a very serious sin. It's karet. Spiritual cut off from Hashem. Needless to say, the non-Jew, the Gentile that's intimate with the Jew, is also getting cut off from Hashem and is inheriting themselves a very, very long sentence in Gehenna. Avkana says, in the Gemara Maseches Sanhedrin, page 82a, that the verse, it says, Yehudah has dealt treacherously, an abomination has been committed in Israel and Yerushalayim, for Yehudah has profaned the holiness of God, and that he has loved and married the daughter of an alien God. He says, what does it mean? He says, this verse has the secrets of all the abominable, forbidden relationships, where Yehudah has dealt treacherously is referring to idolatry. Where when a Jew is intimate with a non-Jew, it's considered an act of idol worship. In a verse that says, where they acted treacherously with me, the house of Israel, this is referring to an act that's in the same level as mishkav zachu, sodomy, or homosexuality. In the sentence where it talks about how it's considered an abomination, means that he desecrated Hashem's name, as if he was with a prostitute. A Jew with a non-Jew, it's considered as if they were same thing as what they were with a prostitute. And therefore the Chachamim say that a Jew that is intimate with a non-Jew is making multiple sins, the equivalent of all of them combined, which are being with the Nida, a menstruous woman that's still in a period, which is forbidden even if she's his wife. Being with the Shifcha, like a Canaanite slave, which is forbidden. Being with the Goya, which is a karet sin in itself. Being with a married woman, an act of adultery. and being with a zonah, being with a prostitute. Each time a Jew is intimate with a non-Jew, he's committing all of those sins. And each one of them has its own separate Gehenom, Kafakela, Chibuta Kever sentence. And certainly one of those sentences is loss of sustenance. Because each time they're making an intimate act, it's Isur Karet, which cuts their connection from the Chochmah, Binah, and Daat, from the Keter, from the place of sustenance, because they're ruining the Yesod, they're ruining the foundation. So whatever sustenance they are still getting, even if they're getting millions of dollars, that sustenance will be cursed. It'll be spent on taxes. It'll be spent on bills that you don't want to pay. It'll be spent on lawsuits. It'll be lost in all types of bad investments. Or simply put, you're never going to enjoy it, and Hashem is simply going to use you as a vault. As Shlomo HaMelech teaches us, that some people, Hashem gives them a lot of money as a form of punishment, but also as a form of blessing for somebody else. Where in so many words, they end up doing the work and getting all of that money just for a righteous person that will come along down the road and end up taking that money from them. Inheriting that money, acquiring that money, whatever way it is. In so many words, they're simply holding the money until the transfer eventually happens. But they're never going to enjoy it. Why? Intimate act that was forbidden between Jew and Gentile. Now, so the Chachamim are telling us things that we can do to elevate ourselves to the best possible level you can, where it will yield you much better children, much more blessed marriage, much healthier lives, much more blessing in your parnasah, in your sustenance as far as making money, much more blessed money, everything better. Or literally the exact opposite. Or in fact, even worse. How worse? The Chachamim teach us that a man and a woman who don't take Kedusha into their unity are prone to commit adultery. Since everything that they do is based on physical pleasure, on lust, which means that at whatever point during their life, when that spouse that they've spent 5, 10, 20, 30 years is no longer fulfilling their lust, they won't hesitate to replace them. They won't hesitate to replace them. As soon as she either says no, or she simply becomes a no in his mind, she's not attractive to him anymore, it won't be difficult for him to replace her, even if he doesn't necessarily want to divorce her. Because they're still friendly, because she's still good to him, because of blah, 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 whatever the reason is. But for him to be intimate with some other woman, whether it's a one-night thing or an ongoing relationship, there's no hesitation. The same goes opposite. He could be her best friend. And he gives her everything she wants. He gives her money, and he gives her a house, and he gives her this, and he gives her that. But since for her intimacy is purely an act of lust, the moment somebody else convinces her that this is good to do with somebody else, whether they convince her as a result of physical attraction, or they convince her by simply making her laugh, or they convince her by giving her a present and acquiring her heart in the process, or whatever way they convince her, it won't be difficult for her to cheat on him. In fact, in today's world, there are certain reports that have come out that show that women are more likely to cheat on their husbands than men are, which is the opposite of what it was historically. So here we see that eliminating kedusha from a person's life not only produces horrible fruits as far as children, but it also produces a horrible marriage. A marriage that, in so many words, the clock is ticking every second. The Zohar Hakadosh calls a man that's unmarried pal gufa. Pal gufa is someone that's missing a body. Because he's not married, he's missing his other half. But when two people are together intimately, but they're not doing it in a holy way, they remain pal guf. They remain pal chochmah. They still don't have the wisdom. They still don't have the intellect. They still don't have the knowledge. Why? But they were intimate, because that intimacy was done in a sinful way, and thereby whatever they yielded was damaged. Now, should I be concerned about that damage? The Midrash Rabbah, Bereshit, in Sefer Bereshit, in Parashat 21, says that when Adam HaRishon, through his Ruach HaKodesh, foresaw that his descendants will be sinful, go against God, and end up going to Gehenom, he immediately decided to separate from his wife, Chava. But then, later on, he saw through Ruach HaKodesh that 26 generations later from him, Am Yisrael is going to accept the Torah from Hashem. Immediately, he went back to his wife, and they had a child. Why? Adam HaRishon was at an intellect level that's beyond our comprehension. He had angels cooking for him. He was something beyond anything we can imagine. All of the souls were within him. And his spiritual level, even after the sin, was something unbelievable. And he understood the purpose of life. He understood that everything is supposed to be done for the ultimate purpose, to achieve the ultimate purpose of the Creator. So he figured, if the fruits that will come out of me, the children that will come out of me, are going to go against the purpose, what's the point? Why should I even be involved in it? But the moment that he saw that one day, 26 generations later, at the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu, Am Yisrael is going to accept the Torah, then he the solution is there. Then it's worth it to have children. Because eventually, even though there'll be a whole rough patch of 26 generations worth of rough patch, the solution is coming. The ultimate purpose will eventually be achieved. Why should Adam HaRishon be so worried about the ultimate purpose? The Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 33a, say that in the value of Daat, of this wisdom, is so high that we pray for it every day. In our Amidah prayer, regardless of which day of the week, or even if it's a holiday, the first three prayers are the same. But the fourth blessing that we pray during the week, each day, is we ask Hashem to please give us Chochmah, Binah, and Daat. We want all of them. We want all three. We want a complete connection to the Keter. And we pray for it every day. Betzalel acquired Daat, and thereby gave us a Aron HaKodesh, but also the understanding that a person can achieve such high levels that they could literally create a world. If a person listens to the Ramban, that means that they're going to learn that in order to create something from nothing, by yourself, you can't create anything. Whether you're man or woman. But together, you can create something. If you're going to create something, certainly you want to create something that is achieving the purpose. To do that, you need the same Daat. The same Daat that Betzalel had. The same Daat that Adam HaRishon had. The same Daat that our forefathers had. That very same Daat. But if a person chooses otherwise, I'll achieve Daat, but in my own way. What's your own way? Pleasurable way. I'll do whatever I feel like it. Oh, so you're going to be there, she's going to be there, and you figure you're going to achieve Daat, but it's not exactly going to be the best version. When a man is with a woman, and the relationship is, like we said, an illicit relationship, even if it's his wife, but he scared her into it, he pressured her into it, or they're simply just being promiscuous as dogs and lustful as dogs, that means that his Chochmah, the part that he's connected to, is damaged. Her Binah is damaged. And the product of that, the Daat, is also damaged. What happens when there is damage? What was Adam HaRishon so worried about? What is the Ramban so worried about? What were the sages so worried about? You could say they're worried about producing kids that are terrible. Okay, well, let's say they're not looking to have kids. Let's say they're just looking to have fun. The Torah tells us in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 23, verse 15, "V'lo yera becha ervat davar v'shav me'acherecha," that he will not see a shameful thing among you and turn away from behind you. The Chachamim teach us that when Hashem sees ervat davar, something that is immodest, something that is immoral, he runs away. And what's left is destruction. Because the life form, the sustenance, stops. So now a person that was given a perfectly healthy sexual organ, perfectly healthy male member, perfectly healthy chest, perfectly healthy way to reproduce, but they use it in a way that's forbidden. Hashem says, I'm out of here. When the spiritual sustenance from above leaves, that creation begins to die and self-destruct. And self-destruction happens in the form of cancers and tumors. And it's no wonder to the people that are inside the world of Torah, when they hear statistics of prostate cancer and breast cancer, because the more immoral the world has become, the more immodest the world has become, the larger the amount of cancers, of self-destruction inside the very same organs that they sinned with. So you see, Rabotai, God saying, I'm leaving if you have anything that's shameful, is not just, cry baby, I'm leaving. No. It's God. He says, I'm leaving. That means death begins. This is what our Chachamim were scared of. It's not just Gehenom, Kafakela, Chibuta Kever, all these scary places. It's not just a bad marriage, bad children, scary life. But it's also the very same organs, the very same parts of the body that the people sin with, that cause Hashem to leave, that cause shame to the name of God. Those very same things begin to self-destruct because they simply are not achieving their purpose and in fact are going against the purpose. Now, of course, It's case by case. There's different people using different things. Different people get punished with different things. But it's safe to say that the highest form of cancer is in the sex organs. And it's also safe to say that the world has become more immoral and immodest, to say the least. At the same time, and if you had a chart made by some statistician, you'd see a direct correlation between immodesty, immorality, and the cancers that are killing those very same people. Now, last thing is that the prophet Isaiah also warned us about the very same thing. In chapter 1, verse number 4, the prophet Isaiah says, Oy goy chote, am kaved avon, zera me'aim banim mashchitim azvu et Adonai, niatzu et kdosh Yisrael nazru achod. Says, woe, they are a sinful nation, a people weighed down by iniquity, evil seed, meaning evil offspring, destructive children. They have forsaken Hashem, they have angered the Holy One of Israel, and have turned their back to Him. Says the Chachamim, why did Isaiah repeat himself by talking about, okay, so there's wicked people, I get it. But why say evil offspring, destructive children? But do it in different words. If they're destructive, certainly they're evil. If they're evil, they're typically destructive. He says, no. Anytime there's a word in the Torah, there's a reason. So you see these banim mashchitim, these destructive children that left God, they didn't just wake up one day and say, I don't feel like being religious. The way they were brought to the world as a zera was already ra. When they were already seeds, they were already wicked. Why? Because of the way that their parents brought them to the world. Rabotai Karim, Eliyahu Navi says that in the Gemara, Masechet Kiddushin, page 80b, that a woman is more vulnerable than to be gullible than a man. Meaning that she's not allowed to be alone with a man that's forbidden to her, and even if she has her friend with her. Like some people says, no, it's okay that I'm going to meet him. I have my girlfriend with me. 2 women are not allowed to be alone with one guy in an enclosed area. Why? They're gullible, says Eliyahu Navi, to be fooled exactly with this specific issue of intimacy. Exactly with this issue. This is how Chava was fooled by the serpent. A woman has to understand that for her, just simply being a woman makes her vulnerable. And this is why it's foolish for a woman to put herself at risk by either working with just men or by having a male friend. Needless to say, meeting with men one-on-one. Or worse yet, watching things that are immodest. Watching television, watching movies. All of these things are forbidden. Why? All of them pry on her vulnerability in the very same exact thing that causes all of this damage that we talked about. So it's not just men that need to protect their eyes, of course, because it leads them to waste seed, either on purpose or not on purpose, to their sleep and so on. No. It's also women. And therefore we see that the teachings of the sages are not just for us to have happy lives, but also to let us know that if it's not happy, it's going to be a disaster. When you put it that way, people start to begin to understand what choices we have and realize it's not free choice. It's simply choice. You do what Hashem says, you'll get good. you do not do what Hashem says, you're going to regret it. You're going to have a horrible life, horrible eternity. But the evil inclination will continue fooling you. The times will get better. Just give it more time. Give it more effort. Make more sins. And you're going to be like one of these animals running on a wheel, waiting for the end to come. You're going to be in a maze that has no exit. And the problem is that you won't know it until it's too late. This is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us, if you want to be holy, you're not doing me any favors. You're holy because I'm holy. And you want to be holy because you want to be next to me. You want me to be in your life. And that's why the Mishnah says, Ish Isha Zachu Shechina B'neim. When a man and a woman married, there's shlom bayit, there's love between them, especially during the intimate act, the Shechina comes there. The Shechina heals the body. The Shechina heals the life. The Shechina heals every issue that's there. Because the Shechina cannot come to a place with imperfections. But if a person does not have this holiness in their life, especially during the act of intimacy, and the way they act is like animals, the Shekhinah leaves. And then the Ish and the Isha change, where the Ish, that's spelled Aleph Yud Shin, the God that's within him, that Chochmah leaves, the Yud leaves. He's left with Aleph Shin, that's Esh, fire. The Isha, that's spelled Aleph Shin Hey, that Hey, that's part of that Binah, the part of Hashem that's in her, leaves, leaving her also with Esh, Aleph Shin. And now instead of having Ish and Isha and Hashem putting them together, holiness being there, all they have is fire and disaster. So this, Rabotai, is not just the teachings of how to gain more physical pleasure in the world. As you've seen already from the last 10 lectures of this series, if a person knows how to sanctify themselves for intimacy, that also means that they've sanctified themselves for before and after it, and certainly prepared themselves with a life full of God and an eternity that's even more so. Yeh Ratzon, may be His will that each and every single one of us will utilize these teachings to sanctify ourselves when we're alone, when we're together with our spouse, and Be'ezrat Hashem, deliver these teachings to our children in one form or another when the time allows, and the situation allows us to as well, so they could have holy lives. Because we have to be holy. Because God is holy. And the risk of losing God and acquiring a life that's absent of holiness is simply requesting a Holocaust, personalized. Only a fool would request that. Be'ezrat Hashem, we all succeed to acquire holiness and glue ourselves to it, cleave to it, and enjoy the whole process. Perhaps so much so that it'll encourage other people to do the same. Thank you for learning with me. Enjoy the film tomorrow night. Share it with as many people as possible. Please contribute to the campaign so we can reach more people. You can go to our regular website. You can go to the Gehenom website. There's plenty of different places that you could donate and help us get this message out there. The need is immeasurable, but Hashem wants to use people to bring his sustenance. Each one of you can be a hand that Hashem uses. And each person that benefits out of watching that movie, and thereby you watching this series and watching other series and other lectures that we do, can acquire themselves an extraordinary life. A life full of holiness, a life with a good marriage, a life with good kids, a life with holiness in their kids, a life that is aiming towards heaven, a life that will yield you probably even more merits than what you can get yourself. And not just simply if a single dollar works. Needless to say, if you have thousands of dollars invested. Invest wisely, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we will all succeed.
There are no shortcuts, no tricks, no magic. The very cave you fear possesses the cure you seek. Go within. Just know, once you cross that threshold, there is only one way out.
There was a rich family that lived here called the Hetheringtons, and unfortunately, their daughter passed away of a heart attack inside the house. Basically, they were so devastated that they reached out to people claiming to be psychic mediums. They actually weren't psychic mediums. They opened up a total of 11 portals inside this house and invited spirits and entities from all different kinds of dimensions.
Well, I think there are certain pieces of evidence that there is an afterlife.
The resurrection of the dead is affirmed pretty clearly in the Talmud and the Midrash.
To be honest with you, to give this lecture is a nightmare. If it was up to me, I wouldn't. There's going to be some graphic details.
This place is a maze.
That person after death went to a place called Sheol.
This is by far the largest near-death experience study that has ever been conducted.
People go to a place and they experience weird things. And sometimes they actually will see a character of some type. Well, where did that come from?
I don't know why that one chain is swinging back there.
They may describe feeling profoundly peaceful, seeing a bright, warm, welcoming light. Some people describe watching doctors and nurses working on them with incredible accuracy.
Next thing I knew, I was above my body watching the operation.
How long did you feel like you were gone?
I went to a place of timelessness. And so what that means, it could have been a second, could have been 5 minutes. I don't know.
Can you imagine waking up from your sleep and not being able to move?
As I'm lying there, I realized that there's an evil presence next to me.
Do you believe that angels, demons exist?
Holy dude, get out of here! Oh my god, dude!
Strange things keep happening. Bizarre nightmares. As if I'm on fire.
Whoa, what the hell is this? Man, I've got bad chest pain.
Satan's Hollow is what it's called, the portal to hell.
Some people calling it an eye of fire, while others said it looked like the portal to hell opening up.
And the next thing I know, I was outside of my body, looking at my body.
What I'm going to do is called claromancy, the art of throwing lots or throwing bones.
2,000 years of experience, passed down, recorded, of how demons work.
God has them all on a leash, and he lets the leash go enough to let them tempt us, because that's what makes us spiritually stronger.
I'm trying to be as graphic as possible so you understand what we're talking about.
It's your ticket to reality. It's your ticket to freedom. It's your ticket to immortality.
Is there an afterlife? Is there a God?
It's the type of information that can keep you away from the Yitzhak.
What happens to us after we die?